Welcome to Chalk Talk. We're 4 weeks into the high school football season, and we've also got a couple things I want to talk about as well. Before we get into the 13th Region Fearless Rankings, we got some high school boys and girls soccer to talk about as well today, and things are starting to progress a little bit with the high school football season and the soccer seasons, and it's going to be interesting time in the next few months if only if we can get some of this temperatures start cooling down a bit. Fall's almost here, but it sure doesn't feel like it. Once again, it's the Sentinel-Echo and the Times-Tribune. They're the ones that brings you Chalk Talk, and without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. So if you want to check out sports coverage, volleyball, high school soccer, high school football, cross country, golf, go get you a Times-Tribune or a Sentinel-Echo. Get both, because the coverage is top-notch in the Tri-County, and you're not going to see anything better anywhere else. With that said, let's go ahead and jump right into high school football action, Week 4, and boy, was Week 3 fun. Couple questions we have to be answered later on in the show. We've got, is Corbin still going to be number one after losing to Pulaski County? I don't know. They've been number one for a long while. Do they drop? Does Bell County move up into the top spot? Or maybe Williamsburg? We'll see soon. But before we get to the Fearless Rankings, of course, let's go ahead and talk about our local teams' upcoming games and what they did last week. We're going to go ahead and start off with the Whitley County Colonels this week. The Colonels had a big win last week during the Appalachian Bowl. They defeated Perry Central. They're 2-1. They're off this week. They got a bye. They have a good bye week because the following week, which next Friday, they'll be going up against Bell County. So they're going to be able to work a little bit and get ready and prepare for Bell County at home. Should be a good game. Jeff Irwin will have his team ready, I'm sure. And right now, if there's one surprise team in the 13th region, I would have to say it's Whitley County. I'll be the first to say the Colonels are proving me wrong right off the bat with the season starting. I picked them to go 3-7. They're 2-1. They're getting ready to make me look really bad. Playing well. Coach Irwin, hats off to him. He's done a fantastic job. Through 3 games, quarterback Seth Mills completed 43 of 65 passes, 388 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's ran 22 times for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. You got Mr. Playmaker there, Cameron Gibbs, 13 receptions, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. Caleb Irwin, 12 catches, 121 yards, 1 touchdown. And in the backfield, Woody Lawson's doing a lot of the dirty work, 34 carries, 297 yards, and 3 touchdowns. We all were surprised at the beginning of the season that they hung tough with Corbin, but now I can kind of see why they hung tough with Corbin. Whitley County's a good team. They've defeated Perry County. They've defeated Scott, Tennessee. Can they keep this going? It'll be hard to beat Bell County next week, but of course I'm not counting them out. The Colonels have things going the right way right now, and like I said before, Jeff Irwin and his coaching staff has done a fantastic job, and Irwin's going to have Whitley County battling for that Class 5A district championship. Of course, you'll have to go through Pulaski to do it, but they have a good shot. So we'll go ahead and now switch gears a little bit and look at our first game since Whitley County has a bye this week. Our first game we're looking at is Lincoln County, a much improved Lincoln County Patriots squad who's 2-1 on the season. They'll be traveling to play North Laurel, who is 1-2. The Jaguars could easily be 3-0, but some missed tackles and some missed blocks and some missed cues has led them to go the other way with a 1-2 record. Should have beat Paul Dunbar in Week 1. They did win in Week 2. Then they should have won last week against Walton Verona, but dropped a 22-21 decision in a game that they led throughout. Some consistency that they've had in the first 2 games was a running game, rushing for over 200, 300 yards. This past week, they ran for 203 yards and only had 35 yards passing. Jacob Bowman led the way with 102 yards on the ground. Dalton Sizemore, quarterback for North Laurel, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Jace Hacker had a big game defensively, 11 tackles. They're going to go up against a very good and, like I said, a much improved Lincoln County squad. The Patriots beat West Jessamine last week 42-15. They get a lot of good play out of quarterback Nick Harris. Nick Harris has completed 21 of 37 passes for 378 yards and 4 touchdowns. He can hurt you. North Laurel's going to have to pay attention to that. He's also got 3 guys with at least 6 receptions apiece, and their leading receiver, of course, is Clayton Davis, 145 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Davis is hard to stop. Running back, Rodney Alcorn, 188 yards rushing so far this season, 2 touchdowns. Dylan Birchfield, 144 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Lincoln County has 3 players that have at least 2 rushing touchdowns and a total of 8 rushing touchdowns on the season. Like I said, for North Laurel to get this game, the Jaguars can't turn the ball over. They cannot have missed tackles, and they got to have good special teams play. This is a game they could win. I'm not 100% sure on that. Excuse me yet, but it's a game that they have the potential to win. They are at the Jungle, and they don't want to lose at home. So look for North Laurel to have their hands full this week, Friday at the Jungle. Kickoff schedule for 7:30. Now we're going to go back on down to I-75 and check out a good matchup between 2 teams that are a little bit better than what people thought at the beginning of the season. You've got Clay County 1-1 traveling down to play Lingcamp, who is 2-1. Both teams, I thought, last week had disappointing losses. They were winnable games, but neither team could come up with the win. Clay County took a 1 on the chin in their own Appalachian Bowl, losing to Mason County 28-21, while Lingcamp led throughout against Middlesboro at home, and then all of a sudden the wheels fell off and the Wildcats lost in overtime to the Yellow Jackets. Missed PAT really hurt Lingcamp. They could have been, Wildcats could have been 3-0 and had a great chance of being unbeaten going in this game, but just could not get things going toward the end of the game. Rushing attack wasn't as strong as it had been in the past 2 weeks. Only 147 rushing yards, 265 total offensive yards. So they struggled a little bit there on offense. Made some key defensive stops, defensive plays. But in the end, they just couldn't stop Middleboro's Jabari Kyle. Kyle, like I've said before in a couple past weeks, top-notch running back, and Lingcamp had trouble containing him. Tylen Smith, though, had a good game for Lingcamp. 9 for 14, 118 passing yards. Chase Brown carried the ball 13 times for 71 yards and a touchdown. So Lingcamp had some good numbers there. They just got to be more consistent and hopefully get back on the winning track this week. But to do so, they're going to have to find a way to slow down Clay County's offensive attack. Quarterback Ethan Hacker this year completed 10 of 20 pass attempts for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the big offensive dynamite, I guess you could say, for Clay County is running back Chandler Hibbard. Hibbard is one of the top running backs in the state. Top running back, I believe, in 4A right now. He has carried the ball, against Mason County, he carried the ball 34 times for 262 yards. And for the season, in 2 games, he's averaging 275 yards a game. He's got 550 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. So, yes, if Lingcamp's going to win this game, they're going to have to stop the run. That's going to be the key to their success. So, can they? That's the big question right now. Coach Alan Harris believes they have a very good shot, and I do too, but they've got to stop Clay County's Hibbard from getting big yards on the ground. Our third game, we've got West Jessamine, who is 0-3, going to South Laurel, who's 1-2. But the Cardinals have played 2 back-to-back games against top 10 competition, and should have things rather easy in this week's game at home. The Cardinals lost last week 80-40 to Bell County, but they hung tough. They never had a running clock on that game. They did surrender 80 points, but they also had some key players out defensively on the team, and that kind of hurt. And but they did put up 40 points against one of the top teams in Class 3A. Logan Gentry last week completed 13 of 21 pass attempts for 109 yards and a touchdown. For the season, he's got 332 passing yards now. Jordan Ramey continues his impressive play, 157 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. Heck of a game for Ramey. Ramey's got 563 rushing yards now on the season for South Florida. Trayton Napier had a big game against Bell County last week. 7 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown. He now has 11 receptions for 151 yards and 1 touchdown. And then you've got Datrian Briggants that's got 16 catches on the year, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just top-notch play for South Florida offensively, but they just couldn't get things stopping the London Stephanie from Bell County, and they struggled stopping him. And like I said, Bell County just kind of ran away with the win, but never got it to a running clock or anything in that nature. 80-40 loss. This week I expect things to be a whole lot different with West Jessamine coming to town. The Colts have been outscored 86-21 this season. Their leading rusher is Scott Bryson, 139 yards, and you got quarterback Hayden Rowland, passed for 206 yards and 1 touchdown. This should be a game that South Florida gets back on track and evens their record at 500. I know I talked to Coach Donnie Burdine, and he told me that, hey, we're not worried. We're not concerned with what happened the past 2 games because who we've played. What I'm worried about is if we lose these next 2 games, then I'm concerned. So I think that Burdine knows that his team is right where he needs them to be, but they do need to come away with a couple of victories now with the schedule getting a little bit easier than what it had been. That's 3 games down so far, so we'll go ahead now and go further south on I-75 where Frankfort 1-2 in a rebuild mode this year. Frankfort's going to go on down the road and play Williamsburg, who is one of the top teams in Class A right now. The Yellow Jackets come up with a number 2 ranking in the Associated Press poll, which is pretty darn impressive. Number 2 ranking behind Pikeville, who squeaked past Paintsville this past week. I believe the final score was 9-8. So good win for Williamsburg last week against Leslie County. The Yellow Jackets, for the 2nd consecutive week, they go ahead and have more than 500 yards on offense for the 2nd consecutive week. And of course, I know you're probably getting tired of me saying this, but once again, Mr. Football candidate, senior quarterback Dalton Ponder has another heck of a game for his season now. He's got 842 passing yards, 7 touchdowns. He's completed 39 of 56 pass attempts, rushed for 214 yards and 8 touchdowns. Already 15 touchdowns in 3 games for Dalton Ponder. Anthony Snell, another offensive weapon for the Yellow Jackets, 173 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. And then you got Caleb Rose, 11 receptions for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. Gavin Thomas, 10 receptions, 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jaden Rainwater, 5 catches, 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just a heck of an offensive team, and they're not shabby at all defensive side either. They in their 44-13 win over Leslie County, their varsity defense had blanked Leslie County, who a lot of people thought had a chance to maybe sneak in and upset Williamsburg. It didn't happen though. Frankfort, like I said earlier, 1-2 on a little bit of a rebuild mode this year. I think they've already got a loss to Lingcamp. But I do know they are coming off of a win against Paris, beat Paris 35-14, lost to Lingcamp 20-18 at home. They fell behind 20-0, rallied, cut it to 20-18 behind 2 points, but couldn't pull off the comeback win. Frankfort, their main forte, I guess you could say, is running the ball. You've got Charles Ellis, 325 passing yards, and 3 touchdowns. Zeno Williams, 178 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. And actually, Ellis was the running back. He has 325 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. Sam Davis has passed for 3 touchdowns and 252 yards. Key for Williamsburg, they are at home, is to jump out on Frankfort. Don't give Frankfort any type of confidence because this isn't a bad team. They're just young and inexperienced, and they're going up against a Williamsburg team that is pretty experienced and knows exactly what they're doing. They've got a lot of senior leadership, and I expect, Williamsburg to once again to flex their muscles a little bit, especially on the offensive side of the ball. That brings us to our final matchup of the Week 4 action in the Tri-County 13th region. You've got Corbin going on the road for the first time. The Red Hounds are going to face off against Beechwood. The Red Hounds are 2-1. Beechwood 0-2, I believe. Kind of two losses. A tough loss to Paintsville, who's very good, 19-14. Then this past week, Somerset thumped the Tigers 46-14. Beechwood, defending state champs, rebuild mode a little bit, but their rebuild mode's a little bit different than everyone else's. They're still pretty darn good. What's very interesting in this game is that Corbin is coming in riding a one-game losing skid, of course, and trying to avoid losing 2 in a row. I think the last time they did that was in 2016, I believe. Now, Beechwood, KHSA stats goes all the way back to 1998, and as far as back as 1998, Beechwood has never lost 3 in a row. So that's over 20 years. So something's got to give. Somebody's streak's going to keep on going, and somebody's streak's going to end. The Red Hounds right now, they're being led by freshman quarterback Cameron Combs, 162 yards, touchdown, 8 of 13 pass attempts during Corbin's game against Pulaski County, 23-22 loss. You had Nick Yeager, 78 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Corbin total only 149 yards of rushing in that loss, which is one of the big keys. Travion Longmire was limited to 6 carries and 12 total offensive yards rushing. Pulaski County played a heck of a defensive game. The key to Corbin's success, of course, is Jake Steely. Jake Steely, 5 catches, 116 yards, and 1 TD against Pulaski County. He leads the 13th region with 18 receptions, 235 receiving yards, and 3 scores. Yeager on the season has 246 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns, and Colin Kidd, 182 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. Beechwood, you're going to have to focus on their quarterback. Of course, they have some other weapons, but their quarterback really does it all. He can run with the ball. He can throw with the ball. This is a game that Corbin's just got to be ready to play and make no mistakes. Don't give Beechwood any type of momentum at home. That's the key for Corbin, and I think Corbin will be fine with that. Of course, now what I'll do is we'll go ahead and go to the pick'ems real quick, my pick'ems for the week, and then we'll look at the Fearless 13th Region Top 10 Pigskin Rankings. So pick'ems, we're going Lincoln County at North Laurel. I really like Chris Larkey's team, but there's something there right now where they just can't get over the hump. Lincoln County's playing some good football. I'm thinking the Patriots pick up the win on the road, 28-14 over the Jaguars. Clay County at Lincoln. This is a game that can go either way. I know the Tigers enter this game maybe 5-point favorites, but something tells me that Lincoln's going to go ahead and pick up a win here. It'd be a big win, a 1A win, a school against a 4A school. I'm thinking Lincoln pulls out maybe a 28-24 win over the Tigers, something in that nature. So look for the Wildcats to go 3-1. West Jessamine at South Laurel, I really just don't think the Cardinals are going to have any trouble with West Jessamine at all. The Colts are 0-3. I can look at this game and say maybe South Laurel 49, the West Jessamine 7. Then we're going to go on down Frankfort at Williamsburg. Williamsburg's always had trouble with Frankfort, but I think this is a game where the Berg's going to score about 49 points and win 49, I'm going to say 49-14, 42-14. Look for Williamsburg to remain unbeaten, which would set up their game next week against Somerset. Then you've got the big game a lot of people are talking about, Corbin at Beechwood. A lot of folks think Beechwood, hands down, is going to win this game. I might be rolling the dice too much on this game, but I really think that Corbin's going to come away. I think Cameron Combs is going to have a big game. I think you're going to see Travion Longmire have a big game. And, of course, Jake Steele, he's going to do what he does best. Look for Corbin to win this game 28-21. Will the Red Hounds trail at halftime? They've trailed all 3 games so far this season. I don't know. But I think this is a game that Corbin, even with the 3-hour trip, I think Justin Haddock's squad's going to pull this out. So, real quickly, we're going to go ahead to the 13th Region Fearless Pigskin Rankings. Number 1, you've got Corbin at 2-1 on the season. Number 2 ranked team, Bell County, 3-0. 3, Williamsburg, 3-0. 4, Harlan County, a team that a lot of people don't hear about. They're pretty darn good. They're 3-0. Knox Central, it comes in at 5. They finally got that win that they were needing. 1-2. Number 16, Whitley County, they're 2-1. Then you've got the North Laurel Jaguars staying in the top 10 despite the disappointing loss last week. Jaguars are 1-2. Number 8, Middlesboro moves on up after getting a big road win against Lynn Camp. The Yellow Jackets are 2-1 now. And then number 9, you got Pineville, maybe the surprise team so far in the region. Colby Frazier is doing his job, running the ball. The Mountain Lions, 3-0. Going to be interesting when they get into district play. Then we got 2 teams tied for the 10 spot. Donnie Burdine's South Laurel Cardinals 1-2, and Clay County Tigers 1-1. The Cardinals, they've played a tough schedule. They're 1-2. I look for them to get back on track this week. Deservingly so, still in the top 10, along with Clay County, who really could have moved up to probably the 7th spot if they could have got the win last week against Mason County, but they didn't. Before I wrap up the show, I want to touch base a little bit on some other sports that's going on in the Tri-County. You got Reese Anderson broke Whitley County Lady Colonel's career scoring record and assist record. She has 90 goals, 35 assists. Great job for Reese Anderson. Great job and a solid accomplishment. And she's got a whole lot more goals to go because she's a solid player. And she still, I believe, has her senior year next year to play. Let's talk about the top teams in boys soccer. You got Corbin Red Hounds. They won last night 3-0 over OBI, handing the Mountaineers their first loss. South Laurel still right there. Joey Markham's squad doing great. North Laurel picked up a good 11-0 win over Barberville last night, which when I say last night, it'd be Tuesday night. So our teams are doing pretty good. On the girls' side, we're going to have an interesting matchup Thursday with Corbin facing off against defending 13th Region champion North Laurel. Both teams are playing really well. I think North Laurel should be favored to win this game. It could be a little bit of a toss-up, though. I wouldn't be surprised to see Corbin come out on top either. It's just going to see who brings their A game to the table. Whitley County's still playing well, despite dropping a match last night or Tuesday night to North Laurel 9-4. Very impressed with the Lady Colonels. They continue to improve. And then, you look at some other happenings. Volleyball, Corbin continues to dominate in the 13th Region action. South Laurel isn't far behind. Whitley County, North Laurel, they're the other 2 teams that are right there as well. So Tri-County sports are heated up. Things are really going on. And once again, the big key is to what sports you enjoy, go watch. And if you can't go watch the event, I can guarantee you that the coverage will be in the Sentinel-Echo and the Times-Tribune. So pick up both papers and follow your local favorite high school team and see how they're doing in their respective sports they're playing. So with that said, hopefully you've got some high school football knowledge this week, and hopefully I've steered you the right way to what games to watch, what games to look forward to, and maybe what teams might win. Until next week, enjoy this week's Chalk Talk, and I'll see you next week with Week 5 action to preview.